Greetings. Hope this finds you well. So I listened to or at least a portion of an interview Danny Haiphong, look at that, Danny Haiphong did with the economist, professor, and I believe the founder, or one of the founders of Democracy at Work, Richard Wolff. And Richard Wolff offered some interesting perspective and insight to what the ruling elite, the ruling class of the U.S. empire should be doing right now, given that the U.S. is no longer the global hegemon and the empire is in, you could say, steep decline, perhaps, but definitely declining, right? But instead of currently being based in that reality, they are still acting like the United States in, let's say, the 60s or the 1970s, when they were the sole superpower along with the, USSR as well. But the U.S.'s standing in the world has dropped considerably since then and is much more a multipolar world. And then especially when you factor in things like BRICS, and Richard Wolff pointed out the rates of economic growth for the United States. This is coming from the IMF, as he pointed out, very much a Western institution. Economic growth for the U.S., I think he said it was 2.8%. Let's see, Russia was 3.6, 3.8. China was almost 6. India was like 7 or 7.5. So just that alone shows that these BRICS, literally the BRICS countries, right? That was Russia, India, China, are on the upswing. Their economic growth, particularly China and India, doubled, and India tripled the rate of the economic growth of the United States. And again, that was from the IMF. So the U.S. ruling elite, the establishment, and this includes obviously both wings of the capitalist ruling parties, the Democrats and Republicans, instead of being based in that material reality that the U.S. is in fact declining, instead of wanting to try to cooperate and, as China does, have win-win cooperation and build relationships and partnerships that benefit all countries or parties involved, the U.S. is still acting like it's the global hegemon, which isn't helping obviously the working people here at all. And he pointed out how Trump's proposed tariffs would backfire and make life worse for the working class here, and the U.S. is trying to impose these tariffs and sanctions on all these different countries, thinking that they can just dictate to the world how everything is going to transpire. But again, they're not based in reality, hence why those measures and strategies haven't been effective and will be even less effective in the future as the multipolar world continues to rise and gain strength and momentum, and you have things like BRICS really start to come together to combat U.S. hegemony and create conditions for a multipolar world. And again, bringing it back to China, having win-win cooperation between these countries in development and economic policy that is mutually beneficial for everybody involved, instead of, as this current U.S. regime likes to make the rules and give the orders, as Ben Norton would say. So I mean, it's sound advice what Richard Wolff was saying, that the U.S. establishment should change course. They should get back in reality because the U.S. doesn't have that standing, that type of power anymore. But I don't think they're going to heed that advice. I think they are going to double down, and it's like a kind of a wounded animal, just kind of lashing out at everything around it and not really coming to terms with the situation at hand in the U.S. empire. Obviously, in that in that metaphor, analogy, one of those, right, is the wounded animal. But again, still a powerful one, but on the decline. I hope they take that advice and perspective that he was offering, because it would lead to a lot better outcomes just within the belly of the beast here in the U.S. and obviously globally as well. So I hope they heed that advice and come back to reality, and have as Lenin said, a concrete analysis of the concrete conditions, because the U.S. ruling class, the establishment, are clearly not making decisions that are based in reality, and again, they're clinging on to the past and not being in the present and making informed decisions based on the current situation. But anyways, I'm gonna get back to that. Peace, much love.